to Unlikely Sisters, a tale of five digital Naaris.
Powered by Third Bell Studio.
I am Libra Girl.
And I am Taurus girl.
We are diving deep into one of the most terrifying yet fascinating topics in horror history, the real life cases behind the Conjuring Universe and the couple at the center of it all, Ed and Lauren Warren. Now, you have seen the movies and you might have screamed at the jump scares and you have clutched your pillow during the night exorcism and you have probably sworn to never keep a creepy doll in your room again. But here's the thing, the Conjuring movies aren't just fiction, they are based on real cases investigated by the Warrens, who became the most well known paranormal investigator of the 20th century. And in this episode, I am taking you through the origin story and the five of their most famous cases: Annabelle, the Perron family in Harriswell, and the Enfield Poltergeist in London, and The Devil Made Me Do It, and The Last Rites. We will look at what actually happened, what the Warrens had claimed, and how Hollywood twisted those cases into nightmare fuel. So I am over here with my partner Taurus Girl to have a discussion about the Conjuring universe.
So, hi everybody, welcome back to our podcast. I hope you liked our last podcast, and now we are back with something spooky, seeing it has happened in real life. So, me being I have never actually seen horror movies, but yes, I am very excited to talk about this because why not? I always want to know about paranormal stuff and everything. So, yes, let the discussion start on the five amazing stories that inspired the Conjuring movies and give you like a more deeper dive on all this. So, yes, Libra girl, over to you.
So, guys, we have to start from the beginning. The most famous investigators of the paranormal world, the Warrens. Who were they? Let's start with the couple themselves. Ed Warren was a self-taught demonologist while his wife, Lauren Warren, described herself as a psychic. Together, they founded the New England Society of Psychic Research back in 1952. Over the decades, they investigated thousands of cases, worked with clergy, and even kept an occult museum at their very home in USA filled with cursed and haunted objects. Now, some people see them as pioneers who dedicated their life to fighting evil forces. Others accuse them of exaggeration or even fraud, but whether you believe them or not, there is no denying that their stories have shaped the modern horror movies. So, the first case we all know, the terrifying doll, and what if she is in your room? Okay, this might be some kind of really spooky. The Annabelle doll. A first case, the most famous one, in the 1970s, two nursing students named Dawn and Angie noticed that in this doll seemed to move on its own. And at first, it was like subtle leg crosses, arm position differently, but then the things escalated. They began finding handwritten notes on scraps that read, like, help me and help us. None of them owned a parchment paper, not even Donna or Angie. And they were suspicious that who is writing those notes. So then they came this one violent encounter. They had a friend whose name was Louis, and reportedly waking up to find the doll sitting on his chest, trying to strangle him up. Later, he discovered mysterious claw like scratches across his body that faded within the days. A medium told the roommates that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins. But when the Warrens got involved, they said something more darker was at work. According to them, this wasn't a child's ghost. It was a demonic presence pretending to be one. The Warrens performed a blessing, took Annabelle with them, and placed her in a locked glass case in the occult museum with the warning sign that read, "Positively don't open it." And that's where she remains, reportedly still dangerous to this day. In the movies, of course, Annabelle is turned into a terrifying porcelain doll who practically has her own cinematic franchise. But in reality, she is just a simple doll that proves that horror doesn't always need sharp teeth or glowing eyes. Also, a fun fact, guys, do you guys know that one of the most famous US comedian, Matt Riff, now he owns that occult museum where Annabelle Doll was there, and other demonic, horrifying objects still exist. I mean, this is something that Matt Rift has bought, might be one of his most horrifying property, to be honest, but who knows what can happen in the future. So, over to you, Taurus girl. Please let us know about your insight about the Conjuring Universe. What do you think about the Annabelle Doll, about the Perron Family Case, or the other case that the Wardens have investigated in the past years so far?
Um, so honestly, it's like so spooky. I mean, yeah, it's like really when you like dig deeper and know more about how these cases are actually related to real life, it just makes it more scarier because it just feels like what if one day you see Annabelle standing in front of you in the middle of the night and then what will happen? So, yeah, I mean, I really love how they have brought the cases to life through the movies. So, yeah, over to you, Libra girl.
Okay, so the case two, the Perron family. The case that we have seen in the first movie of The Conjuring. The Perron family had a swell road island. And now let's to move to this case. Back in 1971, Roger and Clarence Perron moved into an old farmhouse with their five daughters. From one day, strange things started happening. Rooms were missing, doors creaked open on their own, and Clara noticed small piles of dirt appearing on freshly cleaned floors. The family also began smelling odd odors, sometimes rotting flesh, sometimes the sweet smell of flour. The children saw some really suspicious entities, a woman in gray, a young boy, and a spirit that hissed, "Get out." Every night the activity seemed to happen 3:07 in the morning. And yes, the local legends pointed to a woman named Bathsheba Sherman, rumored to have involved in a witchcraft and accused of killing a baby with a swing needle. Though these claims were never historically proven, Bathsheba's name became forever linked to that farmhouse. When the Warrens arrived, Lauren claimed that she sensed some demonic presence targeting Claren, and yes, during one session, Claren reportedly entered a trance, spoke into a very masculine voice, and even elevated from a chair. The Warrens attempted not a full exorcism, but afterwards the Pannon begged them to leave, and the family eventually stayed in that house for nearly a decade before finally moving out. Dramatic showdown with Bathsheba in The Conjuring back in 2013, but the real case was more spooky and the past trauma and the part was never explained. So, yes, this was the Case family. And moving on to the one which we have seen in The Conjuring 2 was the Enfield Poltergeist in London 1977. So, this was in 1977 a single mother, Peggy Hodgson, and her four children in Enfield, North London began experiencing strange disturbances. Furniture slid across the floor, knocking sounds echoed from the walls, objects elevated. Most notably, 11-year-old Janet appeared to be possessed, speaking in a deep voice that claimed to belong to a man named Bill, who said that he had died in that house. Police officers who visited the house claimed that they saw a chair moved on its own. Investigators from the Society of Psychic Research spent months documenting the events, and they have argued that the children, especially Janet, was faking at least some of the activity, but others believe that the sheer voice of witness made the case hard to dismiss. And the Warrens visited briefly, but were not the lead investigator. Still, in The Conjuring 2, we see them as the star of the case. The movie where Janet's possession, the demonic nun Valak, and the Warrens' showdown in the house, in the truth, the Enfield case remains a mystery and a cry for attention or genuine poltergeist case. The debate still continues. So, this was the case that we have seen in the Conjuring 2. So, the next case was the one which came out in 1981. The Devil Made Me Do It, the Arnie Johnson case. Finally, let's talk about one of the most chilling cases the Warren ever worked on, the first US court case where demonic possession was used as a legal defense. In 1981, a young man named Arnie Johnson stabbed his landlord to death, but before the crime, Arnie had been living with his girlfriend, whose younger brother David was reportedly possessed. The Warrens were called in and claimed that they had performed multiple exorcisms on David during when a demon allegedly clept on to the boy from the boy to Arnie, and months later, during an argument with his landlord, Arnie claimed he had no control over his action when he killed him. His defense in court was that the devil made me do it. The judge refused to allow the possession defense, and Arnie was convicted of manslaughter and he served years of sentence. But this case cemented the warden's reputation not as just ghost hunters but demonologists willing to go toe to toe with the law itself. In The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It in 2021, the story becomes a full blown supernatural thriller, but the real case is even more creepier because it sits right at the intersection of crime, faith, and the unknown. So this was the one which we have seen in the last movie of the Conjuring universe. And the one which is coming in this 5th September is The Last Rites. So now let's talk about the one of the darkest and least public cases the Warrens ever faced, known simply as The Last Rites, as mentioned before. This case didn't inspire a Conjuring film directly, but it shows us the kind of territory Ed and Lauren often entered. It was about a young man believed to be possessed whose life spiraled into the chaos after he reportedly dabbled into occult rituals. His family, terrified by his violent outbursts, strange voices, and claims that multiple demonic entities controlled him, sought help from the Warrens. So Lauren described the home as suffocating with heavy presence. Objects move without explanation, and the young man's body in unnatural ways during their visit. His eyes, she later recalled, would go completely black when the voice of the supposed demon spoke. The Warrens brought in priests and began what they called was the last rite, a battle of prayers, holy water, and for hours the exorcism escalated until, according to their account, the room filled with screams not belonging to any human throat. At the climax, the young man collapsed and the voice encased, and the Warrens claimed that the demons or the demonic entity had been expelled. Though the man's life was never the same, he carried the scars, both physical and mental, a reminder that what has happened. The critics say that this case was never properly documented, that the details were blurred between fate, trauma, and the wardens. The last rites stood as a reminder that sometimes evil doesn't just haunt, it tries to own it. So, what do we make of all of this? Whether you believe the Warrens were genuine paranormal investigators or master storytellers, there is no denying their case has seeped into the pop culture in ways that will outlive us all. The Conjuring universe might be dramatized, exaggerated, or reinvented, but at heart of it are the stories that real people claim to have lived through, stories that still haunt us. And that's the thing about horror. Sometimes it's not just about the jump scares in a movie that lingers, sometimes it's the possibility, just the possibility, that these things could be real. So, I had a conversation with my partner, Taurus Girl, and this was Unlikely Sisters, a tale of five digital Naaris. If you have enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends, stream our other deep dives, and stick around for our next one because trust me, things are only getting darker from here. Until then, keep your lights on and maybe keep your dolls locked. We will meet you in the next podcast. Stay tuned. Bye.